Long before the scandals, the television cameras, and the headlines that would eventually destroy their public image, the Duggar family lived a quiet life in Arkansas centered around conservative Christianity, strict discipline, and an intense belief that every part of life should be controlled according to biblical principles. At the center of the family were Jim Bob Duggar and Michelle Duggar, a couple who became nationally famous for raising one of the largest families in America. Subscribe, comment and likes it help the channel grows. Jim Bob and Michelle married in 1984. Early in their marriage, they lived a relatively ordinary life. Jim Bob worked various jobs in real estate and politics, while Michelle focused on raising children. After suffering a miscarriage, the couple said they believed God was calling them to stop using birth control and welcome as many children as possible. This decision would shape the entire future of the Duggar family. Over the years, Michelle gave birth again and again until the family eventually grew to 19 children. Their names all began with the letter J: Josh, Jana, John David, Jill, Jessa, Jinger, Joseph, Josiah, Joanna, Jeremiah, Jason, James, Justin, Jackson, Johanna, Jennifer, Jordan Grace, Josie, and Jubilee, though Jubilee died before birth. The Duggars became involved with the teachings of Bill Gothard and the Institute in Basic Life Principles, commonly called IBLP. Gothard's teachings emphasized absolute obedience, strict gender roles, modesty, homeschooling, male leadership, and female submission. Men were taught to lead families spiritually and financially, while women were encouraged to become obedient wives and mothers. The Duggar family embraced these teachings deeply. Inside the Duggar home, daily life was heavily structured. The children woke early, followed schedules, memorized Bible verses, and participated in strict household routines. Television and secular entertainment were limited. Dating was forbidden. Instead, older children entered supervised courtships approved by their parents. Physical contact between unmarried couples was closely restricted. Even side hugs became symbolic of the Duggar family's strict standards. The older daughters carried enormous responsibility. Jana, Jill, Jessa, and Jinger often acted like second mothers to the younger children. The family used a buddy system where older siblings were assigned younger children to care for. The girls cooked meals, cleaned the house, homeschooled siblings, changed diapers, and managed daily tasks while Michelle often focused on pregnancies, babies, and public appearances. As the family continued growing, media attention followed. Viewers were fascinated by the size of the household and the unusual lifestyle. Television specials eventually led to the TLC reality show 19 Kids and Counting. The show transformed the Duggar family into national celebrities. Millions of Americans watched the Duggars for years. Audiences saw giant family dinners, church events, weddings, pregnancies, and home renovations. The family projected an image of happiness, purity, faith, and unity. To supporters, they represented traditional Christian values in a modern world. To critics, they represented extreme religious conservatism. But almost nobody outside the family knew about the secret that already existed beneath the surface. The secret centered around the oldest Duggar child, Josh Duggar. Josh had been raised as the golden son of the family. As the firstborn male, he held a special place in the household hierarchy promoted by IBLP teachings. He was expected to become a spiritual leader and example for his siblings. Publicly, he appeared confident, charming, and articulate. But according to later police reports, disturbing incidents had already taken place years before the family became television stars. Between 2002 and 2003, when Josh was around 14 or 15 years old, he admitted to sexually touching multiple underage girls. According to reports, the incidents often occurred late at night inside the family home while the victims were asleep. The girls involved included 4 of Josh's younger sisters and another underage girl who was babysitting at the Duggar home. The details later revealed in police documents shocked the public. Some incidents involved touching over clothing while the girls slept. Other reports suggested more serious contact. The victims were minors, and their names were initially hidden from the public. Years later, 2 sisters would publicly identify themselves. Jill Duggar Dillard. Jessa Duggar Seawald. Inside the Duggar household, the incidents reportedly became known after one of the girls informed parents about Josh's behavior. According to later accounts, Jim, Bob, and Michelle confronted Josh, who admitted to inappropriate touching. The family's response would later become one of the most controversial parts of the entire story. Instead of immediately reporting the abuse to police or seeking professional psychological treatment, the Duggars reportedly chose to handle the matter privately within their religious environment. According to reports, they sought advice from church leaders and trusted religious associates connected to IBLP circles. Josh was allegedly sent away for a period of time to perform construction work and religious counseling with family friends. The punishment reportedly focused heavily on prayer, confession, and spiritual reform rather than criminal accountability or trauma care for the victims. Critics later argued that the family treated sexual abuse as a moral failure or temptation issue instead of recognizing the seriousness of the harm done to the girls involved. At one point, Jim Bob Duggar reportedly contacted Arkansas State Trooper Joseph Hutchins. Hutchins reportedly spoke with Josh but did not formally investigate the allegations at the time. Years later, this detail became deeply disturbing to the public because Hutchins himself was later imprisoned on unrelated child pornography charges. In 2006, years after the incidents, authorities finally became aware of the allegations after information reportedly reached law enforcement through someone outside the family. An investigation began, and members of the Duggar family were interviewed. Josh admitted to some inappropriate touching during questioning. However, prosecutors later concluded that the statute of limitations had expired, preventing charges from being filed. Despite this investigation, the scandal remained hidden from the public. Meanwhile, the Duggar family's fame exploded. The TLC show continued growing in popularity. Viewers watched courtships, engagements, weddings, and births. The Duggar daughters became symbols of modest Christian womanhood to many supporters. The sons entered family businesses or ministry work. The family traveled around the country speaking at churches and conservative events. Josh Duggar, meanwhile, entered politics and became associated with conservative activism. He moved to Washington, D.C., with his wife, Anna Duggar, and their growing family. Josh accepted a position with Family Research Council, where he publicly advocated for conservative family values and political causes. The contrast between Josh's public role and his hidden past would later become central to the outrage that followed. Then, in May 2015, everything collapsed. The magazine In Touch obtained police records connected to the Duggar investigation and published explosive details. Suddenly, America learned that Josh Duggar had confessed years earlier to molesting underage girls, including several of his sisters. The reaction was immediate and enormous. News channels covered the story non-stop. Social media exploded with outrage. Critics accused the Duggar parents of protecting Josh and preserving the family's public image instead of properly protecting the victims. Many questioned how a family that publicly promoted morality and purity could have hidden such serious allegations for years. The scandal quickly damaged the Duggar empire. Advertisers distanced themselves from the TLC program. Public pressure mounted. Eventually, TLC canceled 19 Kids and Counting. Soon afterward, Jill and Jessa appeared in a televised interview with Megyn Kelly. During the interview, both women acknowledged being victims but also defended their family in some ways. They described some of the incidents as occurring while asleep and argued that the media had exaggerated parts of the story. The interview itself became controversial. Some viewers believed the sisters genuinely wanted to protect their family. Others believed they appeared emotionally pressured and conditioned by years inside a highly controlled religious culture. As public scrutiny intensified, former members of IBLP and similar religious groups began speaking out. Critics described environments where authority was rarely questioned, where women were expected to remain submissive, and where family reputation could become more important than transparency or accountability. Then came another devastating blow. In August 2015, hackers leaked customer information from Ashley Madison, a website designed for married people seeking affairs. Josh Duggar's information appeared in the leak. Soon afterward, Josh released a public statement admitting he had been unfaithful to Anna Duggar and describing himself as addicted to pornography. The revelation destroyed what remained of his public reputation. For many Americans, Josh now represented hypocrisy on a massive scale. A man who publicly promoted conservative morality while secretly engaging in behavior that contradicted everything he preached. Josh entered a faith-based rehabilitation center, while Anna Duggar remained with him despite public shock and sympathy directed toward her. Over time, cracks within the Duggar family became increasingly visible. Jill Duggar Dillard and her husband gradually distanced themselves from Jim Bob Duggar. Jill later spoke publicly about emotional strain, family conflict, lack of payment related to the television show, and the need for therapy. Jinger Duggar Vualo later described reevaluating many of the fear-based teachings associated with Bill Gothard and IBLP. She spoke about growing up terrified of making mistakes and learning to separate her Christian faith from the rigid control she experienced during childhood. Other Duggar siblings appeared to maintain loyalty to the family structure, while some became quieter and more private following the scandals. But the darkest chapter was still ahead. In 2019, federal agents raided property connected to Josh Duggar's used car dealership in Arkansas. Rumors spread online for months, but few people knew the true reason for the investigation. In April 2021, Josh Duggar was arrested on federal charges involving child sexual abuse material. According to prosecutors, investigators traced illegal downloads to a computer at Josh's business. During the federal trial, prosecutors presented digital forensic evidence showing the downloading and possession of graphic abuse material involving children. The evidence horrified the public. Investigators testified that some of the files belonged to the most severe categories of abuse material they had encountered. Josh denied wrongdoing through his legal team, but prosecutors argued that passwords, internet activity, and computer evidence pointed directly to him. The trial received national attention because of Josh's earlier molestation scandal and the Duggar family's history. In December 2021, a jury found Josh Duggar guilty. In 2022, he was sentenced to more than 12 years in federal prison. The conviction permanently shattered the Duggar family's image. What once appeared to millions as the perfect Christian family now became, for many critics, an example of secrecy, authoritarian control, and the dangers of unchecked religious power structures hidden behind public respectability. The scandals also reignited public scrutiny toward IBLP and Bill Gothard himself. Former followers described emotional manipulation, fear-based teachings, suppression of independent thinking, and unhealthy environments surrounding sexuality and authority. Documentaries such as Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets explored the Duggar family's rise to fame, the molestation scandal, the culture of IBLP, and the long-term emotional impact on former members and victims. For years, the Duggar family had carefully crafted an image of perfection, smiling children, strict morality, and unwavering faith. But behind the carefully controlled television image existed years of secrecy, trauma, controversy, and scandal that eventually became impossible to hide from the world. Subscribe, comment and likes it help the channel grows.